love talk radio, then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on the smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements with fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Relmar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. We're coming to you live and around the world on... What's that? You say? No. That's not the new soundtrack for the Independence Day movie. No. Yeah, I'm supposed to go see it this weekend. I don't think I will, though. The first one was pretty good. I don't want it to be spoiled. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network and the IPBN Radio Network. If you'd like to send me an email, studio@X-Zone Radio TV on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And our website is www.xzoneradio.com. My guest this hour is a gentleman I've had the pleasure of having on the show many, many times. In my book, he is one of the top experts in the world when it comes to the JFK conspiracy as well as other conspiracies. He is truly a whistleblower. His name is Jim Koepke. And first of all, Jim, welcome back to the show. Congratulations. 5 books.
Thanks, Rob. It's always good to talk to you. I'm glad to be here.
You know, Jim, here we are in the year 2016, and people are still talking, my friend, about the Kennedy assassination. Do you think that there will ever be closure with this?
Well, you know, it is possible. One of the things that I found out in my research, and I'm told I was the first person to find this out, is there is evidence in existence that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that Kennedy was killed by a conspiracy. That evidence I found is in a declassified FBI file. So, I mean, this isn't some crazy person on the street corner talking. This is the FBI, an official document.
Isn't there also an FBI document that says that points to the fact that the FBI knew that there was going to be an assassination attempt on President Kennedy in Dallas?
Well, they suspected it because they had uncovered a plot in Miami shortly before that and did nothing about it. And they just let Kennedy go ahead and make his plans to go to Dallas, which, you know, their job is law enforcement. So there's no reason for that, no good reason they would do that.
But when it comes to the protection of the president as well as the other members of the presidential party, doesn't that fall under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Secret Service? And if the FBI was privy to this information, why didn't they give it to the Secret Service?
Well, that's the question. You know, a lot of people question Hoover's motives. Hoover hated the Kennedys. Kennedys wanted Hoover out of office. Much has been written that Hoover felt that if Kennedy won re-election in '64, he'd be fired because they would not have to worry about political repercussions anymore. So whether or not Hoover would have said anything, I don't know.
Was President Lyndon Johnson prior to becoming president, the vice president of the United States. Was he complicit in the JFK assassination?
In my opinion, absolutely. There's no question about it. As I dug more into it, I found out that Johnson was complicit in murders that took place when he was a United States senator.
Wow.
There's actually grand jury testimony that took place, and I've looked all this up and verified everything. Few people know about this, but he was implicated in at least one murder that took place when he was vice president, because somebody was digging into the illegal activities he had conducted. That person wound up with several bullet holes in them and a rifle in their dead hands, and the police ruled it suicide, which, is another one of those nutty things that makes no sense.
Jim, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our first commercial break.
Okay.
We'll be back in 2 minutes. Exo Nation, my guest this hour is Jim Koepke. And Jim's books are available on Amazon.com. They are Chasing Ghosts, Adventures in a Mental Health Center, My North Korea Vacation, Confessions of a Priest, and we're going to be talking to Jim about his latest book later on Civil Service. This is The X Zone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you right here from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and around the world on the Mutual Broadcast Network and the all-new IPBN radio network. Don't go away.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right. Transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 800-837-1286 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 800-837-1286 to take your call.
And welcome back, everyone. Jim Koepke is our special guest this hour. But before we get back to Jim, did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show and every minute of Mutual Broadcast Network by calling 605-562-4204. That's 605-562-4204. And this is courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone app or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Once again, all the numbers to call is 605-562-4204 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Jim Koepke is our special guest this hour, and as I said before we went to the break, Jim's got 5 books out available now. Chasing Ghosts, Adventures in a Mental Health Center, My North Korean Vacation, and Confessions of a Priest. And we're going to be talking to Jim a little later on about his new book on civil service. With all the evidence pointing to, LBJ, the FBI having information that would certainly raise flags, and them not sharing this information with the Secret Service. The fact that an Army detail that would have been on the streets of Dallas that day was recalled. How come still the investigation into the Kennedy assassination points to Lee Harvey Oswald as the lone gunman?
Well, I think they did some excellent planning, whoever was behind this, and they knew they needed a patsy. And Oswald himself said that he was that patsy, and I don't think he realized that until the assassination had taken place. And then we look at, well, who controlled the investigation? The person who benefited most, Lyndon Johnson. Texas was going to run their own investigation. Congress said they were going to investigate, and Lyndon said, no, we're going to have an investigation. That was the Warren Commission. And, of course, Johnson was in charge of it, and he controlled it. So you take the person who benefited most from that murder, and you put them in charge of the investigation, you're just not going to get the truth.
Okay, so we have Lyndon Johnson, the Warren Commission, but isn't there a theory that it was actually a Secret Service person who was in a vehicle that accidentally shot Kennedy with the death bullet actually came from a CIA weapon or a Secret Service weapon? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've heard that, and I've looked into it, and I just personally I don't put any credence to it. There's too many problems with that. One of which is there were Secret Service agents seated right in front of that man who they said fired the shot. And you don't see them putting their hands over their ears, or you don't see them reacting. I've had gunshots go off by my ear, and it really gets your attention.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. So I just don't see how that could have happened. And it does not account for Kennedy's head being thrown backwards by the force of the bullet.
Sure. Whatever happened to Kennedy's brain? Has it been found?
No. Many years ago, one person, a famous doctor, you've probably heard of him, Cyril Wecht, was allowed to go into the room where they held all Kennedy's personal effects. And on the list of items was listed his brain. And he looked through all the items and he said, well, there's no brain here. What happened to it? Nobody knows. Obviously, somebody went in there and removed that evidence and, threw it away, buried it, got rid of it somehow. Because that is really the prime piece of evidence, because using today's scientific knowledge, you can actually look at the brain tissue and tell which way the bullet came into the brain. And that would, forever solve the question of which way did the bullet come from, the front or the back.
How important is the Zapruder film when it comes to trying to solve the case of the Kennedy assassination?
I think it's of the utmost importance, because without the Zapruder film, we never would have gotten this far. People, I think, for the most part, accepted the Warren Commission conclusion until they saw the Zapruder film, and they said, wait. I mean, I can see his head snapping back. There's something wrong with what the Warren Commission has been telling us, and that really started the ball rolling when people saw that movie.
There was also a theory, or a conspiracy theory, that JFK was suffering from some sort of mental illness, and that the assassination in its entirety was staged to gracefully get him out of office.
Yeah, I've heard that, but again, I don't put much credence in it, because I think he had his mental faculties. He certainly seemed to be on top of things during the Cuban Missile Crisis. Sure. Thank goodness we had a leader like him in charge of that. So, in my opinion, I don't put much credence in that.
The movie JFK by Kevin Costner, how true to life do you find that movie?
Most of it is quite accurate, actually. Before the movie was even released, a lot of the mainstream media pounced on it and started trying to pick it apart, which I thought was real odd. And I looked into most of what was in the movie, if not everything in the movie, and I was surprised. A lot of the stuff that I thought, well, he must have made this up, I looked at it and I said, oh, no. Actually, It wasn't made up. Pretty much everything is factual. Now, because it's a movie and they have to put everything into a few hours, they did combine some things. They had some composite characters, things like that. But the facts are there. And, some of the real eye-opening things that they have in that movie, I thought it was a wonderful movie. I really did. I think everyone should take a look at that movie, even with the flaws it does have.
So, in your opinion, based on the investigation that you've done and the research that you've done and those that you've talked to, was there a Cuban connection?
Yeah, absolutely. The Cubans were involved somehow. It looks like, and I think Howard Hunt on his deathbed made some connection between the Cubans. And we know that Oswald was involved with some of the Cuban refugees, if you want to call them refugees or freedom fighters, whatever you want to call them. Definitely some connection there. And there's actually still one of the people who was involved in Watergate, who I believe is Cuban, who is still alive. And I've been trying to contact him for years, but he won't respond to any of my requests. So,
was Lee Harvey Oswald a member of the CIA at the time of the JFK assassination?
Well, he certainly seemed to have some connection. And, with the CIA, a lot of the times they'll have someone do work for them, but they're not officially an employee, so they can say, oh, he's not a CIA agent. But he certainly had some connection. All this stuff going on with going over to Russia and then suddenly being able to have the money to come home and no questions asked. I just defected to Russia, now I want to come back. No questions asked, come on in. That's something funny going on there.
What would be the significance if tomorrow the truth of the JFK assassination came out, it showed that there was a government cover-up? Well,
Rob, I was involved in mental health for about 20 years, and I know one of the first things you need to do if you want to be healed from emotional trauma is you have to admit the truth.
Exactly.
And I think this country, America, has deep scars going back 50 years because we know we were lied to, but we can't really admit the truth. If we try to admit the truth, people in our government will ridicule us, people in the media will ridicule us, and you just can't be emotionally healed until you know what the truth is. So it would be a very positive thing, no question about it.
And of course you have the extra whammies that would come along and add to the mental anguish being caused by the truth being suppressed in the Kennedy assassination when you add on 9/11. And then when you add on the lies that were told about the weapons of mass destruction that sent so many people to their graves in the Middle East, it's non-stopping. So how could this clear the slate? Would the governments be able to be trusted ever again?
Well, I think some good would come out of it because people would say, we're not going to allow you to lie to us anymore. And I think you would start seeing people pay attention when they go into the voting booth and pay attention with who they vote for and make sure that they vote for people who are there to do the people's work and people who are honest. And if they perceive someone to not be honest, they would kick them out of office real quick. I think there would be some real positive things come from this.
So when we look at the JFK assassination, is there a connection between the JFK assassination and the assassination of Bobby Kennedy?
I think so. I haven't researched that as much, but it appears that Bobby Kennedy was assassinated as a result of a conspiracy. And we know that about 30 days before Bobby Kennedy was killed, he made a statement that if he became president, he would find out what really happened to his brother. I think when he said that, the wheels were put into motion that he had to be eliminated.
Unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. Whoever said the truth would set you free should have said, unless you're in politics.
Yes.
Are there any other connections that you've been able to bring into the Kennedy assassination?
Well, absolutely. And this is something that I was stunned to hear, and people are always stunned when I tell them this, but there is a connection between Watergate and the Kennedy assassination. You had mentioned Cubans earlier.
Yes.
Some of those Cubans in the Watergate burglary apparently were involved in the Kennedy assassination. The person who told me that was a director of the Central Intelligence Agency. I kid you not. Richard Helms, director of the CIA, told me that there was a connection between some of the Watergate burglars and people involved in the Kennedy assassination.
So this also connects President Richard Nixon to the Kennedy assassination.
Absolutely. It appears that Nixon was not above using these people. Apparently they're very skilled, but he was not above using people that he knew had dirty backgrounds to do his own dirty work.
Well, he picked the wrong guys here because they were caught, apprehended, and
they screwed up.
They screwed up and ultimately led to the impeachment of Richard Nixon. I still can't understand why President Ford exonerated him.
Well, my opinion on that is, Ford was on the Warren Commission, and he apparently covered up the information there, and I think he was brought in as vice president because people knew Nixon was going to be leaving, and they could count on Ford to once again cover up the truth to the American people.
All right, Jim, stand by. We've got to take our news break at the bottom of the hour. Exo Nation Jim Koepke is our special guest, and Jim and I will be back further discussing the JFK assassination. We're also going to be talking about Jim's new book, Uncivil Service. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Whatever you do, don't go away.
Mutual Broadcast News, I'm Leo Ashcraft. Indiana child welfare officials have warned an organization that installed 2 baby boxes at firehouses where mothers can drop off unwanted newborns anonymously to remove them, saying they question their safety and whether women who use them could face child abandonment charges. 6 hospitals in Arizona have installed drawers in their emergency rooms that allow women to drop off infants anonymously, although state law neither authorizes nor prohibits them. Nearly 2 months after a woman was found severely burned on the Crow Indian Reservation, the tribe is still seeking information about the case from federal investigators. The victim was found on April 17th in a field near the border between the Northern Cheyenne and Crow Reservation with burns over most of her body. Doctors told the woman's family she had walked about 3 miles before collapsing. Reservation residents believe the woman was set on fire. Mutual Broadcast News. Depend on it.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com.
Nita Hickok is an expert in exorcisms, psychic warfare, soul healing, angelology, soul retrieval, demonology, energy healing, long-distance healing, astral healing, and much more. Nita is an interfaith minister because she believes all gods and goddesses are valid and that they are part of one divine force that is incomprehensible to us who are incarnated upon this earth. Nita has been doing astral healing, distant healing, spirit release, exorcism, house cleansing and blessings, soul restoring and revival, psychic vampire removal and curse removal, and much more for over 40 years. For more information or to contact Nita Hickok, visit her website at www.astralhealer.com. That's www.astralhealer.com.
If you are looking for a safe, zero-calorie natural option to the harmful artificial sweeteners on the market today, Just Like Sugar is what you're looking for. Just Like Sugar is a wonderful natural alternative for those health-conscious people who choose a calorie-restricted diet with a great, pure, sweet flavor that tastes just like sugar. Just Like Sugar is a great natural option for people suffering from diabetes and may be useful in restricted diet programs where standard sugars are not allowed and does not cause a laxative effect of some other sweeteners. Just Like Sugar comprises a perfect blend of chicory root fiber, natural calcium, natural vitamin C, and Just Like Sugar's sweetness comes from the natural flavors from the peel of the orange. Just Like Sugar is a natural alternative to harmful artificial sweeteners and will change the way that you believe all natural sweetener products taste. Just Like Sugar is available at your local Whole Foods markets, Wild Oats markets, Henry's, Sun Harvest, and many other fine natural food stores in the U.S., Canada, and worldwide.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
To get your free inventor's information, call 1-800-352-4158. That's 1-800-352-4158. Again, 1-800-352-4158. A fee-based company.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Jim Koepke is our special guest of this hour. Jim is the author of Chasing Ghosts, Adventures in Mental Health Center, My North Korea Vacation, Confessions of a Priest, and Uncivil Service that we're going to be talking about in a few moments. But I've got to tell you, Jim, during the break I was sitting here thinking, wow, you've got LBJ involved. We've got J. Edgar Hoover, who had information but didn't pass it along to the U.S. Secret Service. Makes him complicit.
Right.
Then we have Richard Milhous Nixon, who is attached to this mess. And if Richard Milhous Nixon is attached, and the fact that President Gerald Ford exonerated Richard Nixon, that implicates Ford as well.
Absolutely.
Talk about a conspiracy. Talk about a conspiracy of presidential proportions.
Indeed.
Who else can we tie into this mess? We've got the Warren Commission.
Yeah, most of those folks. We do know there were at least two people on that who privately said they did not believe the conclusions of the Warren Commission that they were a part of. But they were hushed up for the most part. One of those people, probably the most prominent, was a Congressman, Hale Boggs, from Louisiana. Died in one of those mysterious plane crashes. So, again, the Kennedy assassination, there are so many unusual, unexpected deaths.
Where do you think the Kennedy assassination will go from here, the investigation? Or is there any branch of the government, let me ask you this, is there any branch of the government that is still working on the assassination, or as far as the U.S. government is concerned, the intelligence communities as well as law enforcement, this is a closed case?
I think it's a closed case now. The gentleman who used to be my congressman, up until a few years ago, he retired, helped me out quite a bit and was willing to get involved and open some doors for me, but now the gentleman who replaced him he wants nothing to do with it, absolutely nothing. Has actually refused to give me any help whatsoever. And I think that's the attitude most people in government have. They consider it closed.
All right, since we're talking about presidents and government, before we get to talking about your new book on civil service, what do you think about the present political arena in the United States right now? Do you think that if Trump or Hillary are elected, that they could be approached to reopen the investigation into the JFK assassination?
Trump, maybe. The guy is so unpredictable. It's hard to say. With Hillary Clinton, absolutely not, because when she was Secretary of State, I spoke with, I don't remember now, I think it was an undersecretary, somebody who reported to her, one of her appointees, and was treated so rudely and so arrogantly, and was told in no uncertain terms that, what did he say? I don't work for you, I work for Hillary, or something, or Mrs. Clinton, and would, absolutely shut the door in my face. So, absolutely not with her. And with Trump, who knows? It could change from one day to the next.
That's true. That is true. Let's talk about your new book on civil service.
Well, this is a sequel, more or less, to my book, Adventures in a Mental Health Center. And I am a government employee. I've been employed in local government for more than 30 years. And I wrote this book because I've been encouraged to by the people I work with, my friends and my co-workers at work, who say people just don't know what's going on behind closed doors. If it's not on the headline of the newspaper, they just assume everything is okay. And I have to tell you, Rob, I think what goes on in this book probably goes on in most government units across the country, maybe the world. The amount of sex that goes on that the taxpayers are paying for because it happens during work hours.
Yes.
The amount of boozing that goes on, the amount of screwing around, using computers for things you should not be using computers for at work. Very inappropriate material. Watching, Rob?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Watching things at work they shouldn't do. So I wanted to. People hear these rather droll statistical surveys, and they're not interested in them. So I made a story out of it, a novel. It's fiction, but I think it's very strongly based in reality, what I wrote in it. And people who have reviewed it so far have told me it's funny, but it also makes them very angry to think that their tax dollars are going for these kinds of activities.
Before we get back to uncivil service, I just received an email from Charlene in St. Catharines, Ontario, who would like me to ask you a question. And her question is, with computer hacking and database hacking being so common today, people like Edward Snowden have the ability to go deep into government files. The Russians have been in deep government files, as well as other countries not friendly to the United States. If there was information being suppressed by any government agency, why would it not be advantageous to the outside countries not favorable to the United States to actually find proof that there was an assassination plot and that it is being covered up? Thanks for your show, Rob. I love listening to you.
Well, first of all, thanks for that question, Charlene. I think it would be very advantageous, and I would not be surprised if people had tried to do this. My understanding of this information that I mentioned earlier is that it's locked in a KGB. They've changed their name now, but the KGB vault somewhere in Russia, and that this is considered, the people I've talked to in Russia say that this is not part of the usual archives. These would be considered top secret archives. So probably it's not on the internet. It's probably not connected to the internet. There's no way to get to it. But you're absolutely right. It would be very advantageous for another country to get this information.
Yeah, just like I'm sure the same information would have the same effect if they were able to find information pertaining to the existence of extraterrestrials and the government's complicity in maintaining a covert relationship with them.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so let's get back to your book on civil service.
Well, I wanted to write a book that people would find amusing, but that would catch their attention.
Right.
But also would bring up these things. The amount of work that actually goes on in some offices in the government, I think, is very minimal. And I don't think people realize that. You know, taxes seem to go up every year. They want more taxes for this, more taxes for that, and there really doesn't seem to be a lot of accountability in some areas as to what this money is spent for. And I can assure you that in many government organizations throughout this country, that probably at least 10% of the money is absolutely wasted. And I suspect it's a lot higher than that in many government organizations.
Well, just when was it? Last year, the U.S. Secret Service, a couple of agents went out on a little bit of a binge and smashed into the barriers when they were returning to the White House.
Yeah. Yep. That goes on, and I know at my workplace we had a senior manager. Was it last year? There was some meeting where everyone got together in this big auditorium. And I don't know why, he just started talking off the cuff about all the booze he's drank during work hours and all the women he's slept with, all the co-workers he slept with, and the inappropriateness of this. And there's no concern that I can't say something like this, I'll get in trouble, because people just don't seem to get in trouble, even when they admit their bad behavior.
How does that make you feel as an employee?
It makes me unhappy, to say the least. You know, much of what I've done throughout the years is going around and picking up the pieces after somebody who didn't care about doing their job or couldn't do their job. And then you find out later on that because of their close relationship with someone else, they're getting a promotion. And there I am cleaning up after them. It happens to a lot of people. You know, you either know the right people and you move up the ladder, or you don't know the right people and you spend all your time cleaning up after people.
There is that old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you blow. And Monica Lewinsky certainly was known for that. What do you think about her now working for Hillary Clinton's election campaign?
I was not aware she was doing that, but, you know, you better keep her away from Bill. That's all I can say.
And then I just remembered that video footage, news footage, was found going back to 2006, where Hillary Clinton wanted to build a wall between the United States and Mexico. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Again, I look at these two candidates, Rob, and I wonder, how did we get to this point? Because I think I'm with the majority of Americans who say, you know, how do you decide which one of these folks to vote for?
But does this tie into what you're talking about in your book? You know, it's just one step higher, where it's being done at the presidential or the presidential to-be level compared at the local civil service levels.
Sure. People will say anything in order to get what they want, whether it's to get that promotion or to get elected. They will say literally anything, or do anything, or do, you know, favors for anybody in order to get what they want. Yeah. It's without accountability, which we no longer seem to have in this country. Without accountability, it's just it's a free-for-all. It really is.
But it's just not the United States, my friend. We have the same thing happening in Canada. Look what happened, when was it, last night in the United Kingdom, how their withdrawal from the European Union has affected the financial markets of the world.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. There are a lot of people who are angry.
And then I'm sorry.
Well, I'm just going, and my book addresses that. I mean, like I said, this book, I hope it makes people laugh, but I hope it also makes people very angry and very thoughtful about who they're going to put into office.
You know, we've got what is happening with China. They're building the sea. They're building islands in the sea that is on international, passageways. You've got what is happening with North Korea testing missiles. You've got what's happening in the Middle East. You have what is happening in Paris, in France, in Belgium with terrorism. You've got the same problems here in the United States, for goodness sake. Look what happened 2 weeks ago in Orlando, Florida, at the Pulse. And you see, what really gets my goat now about the Pulse, like, God bless the people, my heart, my thoughts, my prayers went out to anyone who was associated with that horrific disaster. But the media is milking it for everything they can. Certain politicians are milking it for everything they can. You know, it looks to me as if the entire system is corrupt.
Well, I think you're right. I think at least the people, a lot of the people at the top are corrupt.
I should say that because there's a lot of people who are really doing 150% in their daily jobs trying to make a positive difference. So I stand corrected on that statement.
Yeah, I mean, I know people who are just the best. You know, they put in extra hours. They're just killing themselves working. But I know a lot of people who aren't.
Now watch me put my foot in my mouth with what I'm going to say next. Are you ready? Okay.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
My producer is just shaking his head and saying, here we go again. When there is a casualty or a fatality in the Middle East with a member of the American forces, it hits the news. Big time. And yet, when there's a police officer killed or a firefighter who loses his life, it's not covered.
Yeah, and those guys are putting their life on the line every single day for us.
You know, they were targets. It's called a badge. And as much as I appreciate what the members of the military do, they weren't drafted into the Army. They weren't drafted into the Navy. They weren't drafted into any of the military forces, including the Coast Guard and all the other parts of the military and paramilitary regimes. They applied for the job.
Right.
You know, so I think that law enforcement, I think that firefighters should get the same attention and the very same respect that is shown and deserved to by members of the military.
Well, I would agree. They have a thankless job. Yeah. They really do.
You know, we hear about PTSD with soldiers. Firefighters, paramedics, doctors, police officers also suffer from PTSD, but you don't hear about that.
True.
You know, and being an ex-law enforcement cop myself, this is a bone of contention with me. And I think that what's good for one is good for the other. And whether or not this has anything to do with the conspiracy, whether it has anything to do with the media, just getting in there, because now the new logo or the new slogan for the media is, if it don't bleed, it don't lead, because the more it bleeds, the more they can get better ratings, and the more ratings they get, the more money they make.
That's right. That's how it works, unfortunately.
Yeah. It's a sick system. So, Jim, in your opinion, is it possible that this sick system can be fixed?
It'll never be perfect, but it can be better. And what we need to do is do something to wake up the electorate out there, and don't just, you know, so many people I know, well, every time I go to the voting booth, I vote Republican because that's what I've always done, or I vote Democrat because that's what I've always done. I really would ask people to take a few minutes and really study about the people you're voting for. Look at their backgrounds. Look if have they kept their promises in the past. Are they trustworthy? Are they fighting for you, or are they just in it for themselves?
Well, I've got a little saying here. Do you know when a politician is lying? Their mouth is moving.
That's right.
All right, my friend, stand by. We've got to take our final break. X-Zone Nation, Jim Koepke is our special guest of this hour. And we're going to be talking more to Jim when we come back as we wrap up this hour, this night, and this week here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Mutual Broadcast Network and the IPBN Radio Network. My name is Rob McConnell. Send me your emails, studio@xzoneradiotv.com. Don't go away. Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerreonian intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com. Unwilling to be the government's deadly assassin, gifted psychic Kahara Mitchell went AWOL and ended up buried under rubble in the wake of a great tsunami. She regained consciousness far from Earth on the medical ship of a Daguerreonian intergalactic fleet. Has she been rescued or abducted by aliens? The Chalice of Carrie, Kahira O'Donnell's latest paranormal science fiction romance, is the passionate story of an Earth woman and her destined mates, twin kings from another galaxy. Kahara uses her gifts fighting alongside Lords Rom and Ra in a war that will determine the destiny of galaxies. The Chalice of Carrie by Kahira O'Donnell is now available at KahiraO'Donnell.com or at Amazon.com.
Based on actual cases, results may vary, not a solicitation for legal services.
If you owe for back taxes, payroll taxes, or if you have not filed, the IRS will search you out. They are the most powerful collection agency in the world. One call to Wall & Associates, and your tax problems can be solved. Listen.
I was worried I would lose my house. Wall met with me in person.
I was scared. Wall & Associates got my levy released in 48 hours.
They settled my back tax debt for a fraction of what I owed.
At Wall, we solve tax problems. Call 800-619-4922. 800-619-4922. You always speak with a live person.
I never had to talk to the IRS again.
Wall stopped my wage garnishment.
Wall solved my back tax problems for a fraction of what I owed.
Call Wall & Associates now for a free face-to-face consultation. Call 800-619-4922. 800-619-4922. 800-619-4922.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we get back to Jim Koepke, our guest this hour, I'd like to take this opportunity of thanking all our guests tonight. Hour number one, we had Bernice Kellman. Hour number two, Kelly Jo Monahan. Hour number three, we had Dr. Curtis Kuhn. And this hour, our good friend Jim Koepke. Monday night, hour number one, I have Michael Cremo coming on the show. Hour number two, Eddie Upnick. Hour number three, Misa. And hour number four, Dr. Kevin Randall. Jim, as always, so great talking to you, my friend. Congratulations on yet another book. When's book number 6 coming out?
Well, I'm working on that. It might be a little while yet, Rob. I'm a very poor typist, but I'm very, very good at sitting down every day and typing out what I can.
Jim, what is your final message tonight for the X-Zone Nation around the world when it comes to the JFK assassination?
Well, my final message is the truth is out there, to quote an old TV show, and we should never give up hope, and we should keep demanding from our elected representatives that they serve our interests, the interests of the people, not their own interest. And don't put up with any nonsense from government officials.
It seems that people forget that it's for the people, by the people, not for the people, by I, the person.
Absolutely, yes.
It's going to be an interesting time to see what happens in November. Any foresight as far as you're concerned?
You know, I just don't know. I think it could go either way. I really do. And usually I'm really interested in elections, and I think they're fun. But this is the first time I remember in my life being kind of scared, to tell you the truth. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's certainly got my attention.
It would be wonderful if one of the nominees, whether Republican, Democratic, Libertarian, or Green Party, would say, if elected, I will reopen the JFK assassination and find out, using every ounce of power within the presidency, to report to you, the members of the United States of America, what really happened.
They would get my vote, that's for sure.
Yeah. But having said that, I think it's about time that, like you were saying, the people push the politicians. Find out the truth about the JFK assassination. Find out the truth about 9/11. Find out the truth about what is really happening. What is going on, and why can't anything be done about the recruitment of people, young people in the United States and other countries, online by ISIS?
Absolutely. That's very worrisome. Gosh. Something needs to be done because it's not going to go away. We just can't close our eyes and hope it will go away. It will get worse and worse until something is done about that.
Jim, I want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. As I said, it's been a great pleasure talking to you again, my friend. Please don't be a stranger, and you're always welcomed here with your friends here in the X Zone.
Thanks so much, Rob. Always good to talk to you.
Take care of yourself, my friend, in regards to your family.
Thanks. Bye.
X Zone Nation, my guest this hour has been Jim Koepke, and we've been talking about the JFK assassination as well as his books that are out and available on Amazon.com. Well, that's it for tonight, X Zone Nation. Wow, a whole week has come and gone, and here we are again. I'll be back Monday night at 6 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X Zone. It's a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. But help each other out. Be kind to each other. Smile. Make a difference in a person's life, and always keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.